It's the SKOR North Twins Show.
All breaking news. The Twins 40-man roster is full, boys. We have some news to announce. SKOR North Twins Show. Hit the like button, subscribe button here. Dex, Phil, Judd. The Twins acquired Diego Cartaya, I believe is how you pronounce it. Diego Cartaya from the Dodgers. I watched a home run highlight 5 minutes before cracking the mic to make sure I had this right. Diego Cartaya, a former catching prospect, at one point one of the hottest catching prospects in all of baseball. He was the Dodgers' #1 prospect in 2022-23, was as high as 14th on MLB prospect rankings overall going into 2023. He was DFA'd by the Dodgers earlier this week, I believe, to make room for Gavin Lux. He spent some time at AAA, at AA. His bat has not really come to fruition. But now the Twins do have Jeffers, Vasquez, Jair Camargo, who got a little bit of taste with the big league club last year, but spent the majority of it with the Saints, Diego Cartaya, and Mickey Gasper. There are 5 catchers for the Twins on the 40-man roster right now. There are
catchers.
Yes.
I feel like usually it's 3,
I think,
right?
I'm pretty sure it's. Let me make sure this is right. If this is all 40, if they're all 40
Are they
man.
all the 40-man? Or
I know.
4. No, it's 4.
Okay.
It's
no,
4
it is
as of
5.
now?
No, it's 4. So they've updated with Diego Cartaya, Jair Camargo, Ryan Jeffers, and Christian Vasquez.
Okay, so Mickey is not a.
Well, okay, Mickey Gasper is listed as an infielder who can catch.
That's the guy from the Red Sox. Yeah, I think he's a
yeah.
second baseman. He can play some shortstop, and then
Got a badass mustache.
He can catch. Do we know why Cartaya fell out of favor so badly in Los Angeles?
Yeah, he can't hit.
Can't hit. Yeah,
So why was he a top prospect then?
Well, he was he raked at A ball and then AA and then AAA the last couple seasons. He has collectively batted like 200 with a 300 on base percentage and a little bit of pop, but like his bat really sputtered in the higher levels.
So what you're telling me is Cedar Rapids is going to have a great catcher this season. This kid's going to go to Cedar Rapids and we're going to tear it up in the Midwest League.
I don't know. I think AA or AAA probably make more sense.
He's
still
definitely
23.
not playing A-ball. He
He's
hasn't
not
played
playing
A-ball
A-ball.
since 2022.
No, I know, but my point is he can hit there. Like that's where his sweet spot is. You put him in AAA, it's going to be a lost cause.
Listen, we need to sell some tickets down in the lower levels of the minors. So
you know what?
we're
Make
just
the
gonna
trip to
send you
Cedar
down
Rapids. Here's the thing: we're going to have a Cedar Rapids caravan every weekend to go watch the Colonels and Diego Cartaya hit home runs for the Colonels.
Okay, I understand that our tone regarding the Twins has rightfully so been very mocking over the last 3 months. All right, they deserve every shred of criticism that has come at them in the last few months. They're in the middle of selling a team. But if we're going to praise the Vikings and we're going to praise Kwesi for buying low on, Sam Darnold was a former top 3 overall pick whose value was sunk, right? And there's been other examples. Mm-hmm. It would be hypocritical to not praise Derek Falvey and company for looking at a guy that, like Declan outlined it, not just MLB pipeline. He was 2023. He was 14th overall prospect rankings MLB pipeline. He was 18th Baseball America and 19th Baseball Prospectus. So across the board, he was one of the top 15 to 20 young pre-major league players in the entire world a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
So, that's what I'm saying.
So, and what did they give up? They flipped like a
pitcher?
random arm, right?
Yeah, like a low level arm to get him.
Dodgers are a pretty smart team though to punt.
Yeah. Well, they're a part team to punt, but also if this was the Chicago White Sox former #1 prospect from a few years ago, like an organization that just kind of is dysfunctional, I wouldn't be as excited. But if you're the #1 prospect from the Dodgers, and yes, Judd brings a good point. If the Dodgers are punting, that probably says something. And when you do business with the Dodgers or the Rays for these type of guys, you do got to be a little careful. But I think a change of scenery is exciting. This is what happens, though, when you don't do anything. I'm overreacting to a former #1 prospect of a catching prospect. That's where we're at in this offseason.
I think there's room. Yeah, I think there's room to say absolutely worth taking a flyer on a dude who's still only 23 years old and was super highly regarded. And also, they have done nothing meaningful to impact wins and losses in 2025.
If they were doing if they were making other moves, or it appeared that there was a pulse at Target Field, this would be fine. This is a fine move. But the problem is, and it sets themselves up for mocking, because when they make moves like this, or to acquire Mickey Gasper, on what, Christmas Eve, I think they acquired him on December 24th. It's really? So I totally get the skepticism. I think it's founded, and I'm still poking the stick. Hey, are you going to do something? Do something. Do anything.
Well, let's get into the thing we originally were going to lead with here on the SKOR North Twins Show, which is the ownership update. So Dan Hayes, The Athletic, had this on Tuesday night, I believe, late Tuesday night, that the Twins ownership believes the club could be sold by as soon as opening day. And the source briefed on the sale told The Athletic that is expected to be sold in full. So not like the Timberwolves situation where it's in installments and it takes years, and then it goes to arbitration and we still don't know 3 or 4 years later who is going to own the team by the end of the day. But now this sale has been expedited a little bit. It's still reported and believed that Justin Ishbia is still very much involved in the potential sale of the Twins. Baltimore sold, I think, in 3 months, and the Twins are hoping maybe to sell above that 1.7 mark, which is something we got into on, I think, our last SKOR North Twin Show before the holiday break. That David Sampson talked about, that if that number is lower, it actually could be more problematic to get the 75% approval from the other MLB owners. There are more tentacles to this than just, hey, there's a buyer, sold, done. There's actually a lot more complicated things that I think Twins fans should be wary of before we just see, oh, the poll ads have sold. It's not going to be a flip of a switch that quickly. But I guess, what do you guys make of the sale potentially maybe even being done by opening day here in a little less than 3 months?
I think it'd be great, because I think that this whole thing has become, to be as fair as possible to the entire situation that we're currently watching, it's just become stale. There's nothing, the only thing that we know for sure is that their payroll, I think right now, is around approximately $136 million, and that they've been told it has to be 130, and that there is no, you cannot go up from that. So I think the sooner that you sell it, the better. Now, that being said, I guess you do have to be a little bit careful, because you don't want to get a buyer who turns out is not a good buyer. The Ishbias would be interesting, and I think so. The Suns are weird, because the Suns are with his brother Matt. The Suns are sort of dysfunctional right now, but they also came in and made moves and did a lot of positive things. Heck, the fact that the Suns put their games on free TV in the Phoenix area was great. And if that's done here with the Twins, that's great. But I think to generate any interest in this team right now, because it's clearly not going to come through some big trade or signing, I do think the sale of this team before opening day, just from a business perspective, Phil, would at least provide an energy that is going to be lacking if the sale process drags on.
The sooner, the better. And I don't want to hear any talk about, oh, be careful what you wish for. The grass isn't always greener. I think the Twins have done a great job especially during the Target Field era, which has mostly been a miserable era of Twins baseball. They've had a few pop-ups, the Bomba Squad season.
It's an incredible statement.
But they have 15 years at Target Field, and they have 2 90-win seasons. They have 1 playoff series victory. 15 years at Target Field. And yet it's not perceived. I guess they do a great job of just putting out a friendly face and I guess being maybe more likable than their win-loss record would suggest, or their success in the playoffs would suggest. It's been really bad on the field. It's not like bottom 5 complete dumpster fire embarrassment organization, but they have won under the Pohlad ownership. They have won 2 playoff series since 1991. That's terrible. That's literally 3.5 decades. And there's been an expanded playoff format, 3.5 decades, and they have 2 playoff series victories since 1991, not to mention how bad everything was bungled for the 12 months between the first playoff series victory in 2 decades, the end of 2023, all the way through the scaling back of the payroll and the botching of the TV situation, the communication with that, the inactivity at the trade deadline year after year after year under Derek Falvey in particular. And the way the fans now feel, I mean, the fans have always been arm's length with the Pohlad ownership group, and there's been some pop-ups where people get really mad. This is as bad as the relationship has been between the Twins ownership and the fans. And I don't know, short of just like someone coming in, stripping it down to the studs even more and selling the team, but I don't know if you can make fans less interested. Judd, you outlined yesterday on one of our podcasts that they're not even hitting 2 million in attendance anymore. You know, you look at like they were first couple of years at Target Field, 3 million, you get the new ballpark shine, and that's great.
Yeah.
But it's been like a somewhat competitive team over the last few years, and people are just kind of done with it. They don't feel like ownership cares about them. They don't feel like ownership is willing to maybe take a short-term, bigger loss for long-term gain. And I know there's some business gray area in there, but the quicker you can reset this and just get a fresh, better connection between ownership, franchise, and fans, the better. So I hope this happens before opening day.
And to be fair, I think that we can say this. I think that as the third generation of Pohlads moves into power, I don't think that they do care. Like I think they care that their last name has become sort of a joke in baseball circles. I think that they do care about the financial ramifications, right? But I mean, I think it's very fair to say that Joe might care, but I mean, it's clear that he's getting pressure from siblings, relatives in their 40s now to sell. So I don't think it's a stretch to say that the lack of movement and that the lack of caring is a real thing. Like it's not like, no, they do care, just tough times. So to your point and to my point, the sooner that they get out, the better.
Yeah. They need a change of scenery. The fan base is just it's as pissed off as they have ever been. And whether it's Justin Ishbia, who's been the maybe reported favorite as a potential guy here to come in and buy the Twins, like Twins fans want someone else to own this team, and we'll see what happens with it. Like I don't envision Justin Ishbia being a similar type of owner. It is interesting that when they bought the Suns, they swing the trade for KD. They give a huge contract to Frank Vogel, and then they blow him out after one season. Like, so I don't know. That was his brother's more the principal owner. I don't know how Justin would view baseball. I'm not sure if it's completely apples to apples there, but they just need a new voice, and fans, I think, will start to at least preach. That's step one. They could have legitimately, I mean this, they could have been in on Juan Soto, and I still don't think fans would care that much. They want new owners. They want new owners more than anything to really get people back in.
I disagree with that, but I mean, obviously, like you've hit on this paradoxical point where there's zero chance that the Twins would ever be in on Juan Soto.
Right.
But you know what's funny is like we use the Padres as a comparison. That's not a huge market. That's the San Diego Padres are not like a huge traditional big TV market. You know, they don't have like a $400 million Yes Network TV deal, and yet the ownership group said, what if we overspend? What if we are over aggressive and tell the fans directly and indirectly, we want to win big? They haven't won big yet. They have not like been to a World Series or in the last 5 years since they started doing this. But their action and their aggressiveness and their messaging has resonated with those fans. And those fans are buying tickets. 40,000 fans per game show up to Padres games. Now, they don't have the competition necessarily of like a 4 or 5 sport market where there's other places to spend your sports entertainment dollar in Minnesota. It is harder to get people to come to Target Field than it probably is in San Diego. But that messaging and that action and that connection with the fans matters in St. Louis, in San Diego, etc.
But that's more of a reason because this is a market with every professional sport represented, because there is a Division One and in some ways two Division One schools. That makes it more imperative to do what the Padres are doing.
Take action.
And what the Padres have done is the Padres put a compelling, pretty damn well paid product on the field. Now they have traded guys. I mean, Soto got to a point where they traded him. It looks like it was a pretty wise move. But I would argue that the Twins and that whoever buys the Twins needs to be as aggressive, if not more aggressive than the Padres, if you want to make yourself part of the mix. Because if you don't, like, if you're like, oh, okay, you know, Padres, that's great, but we're going to try and get by. Because here's where I feel like we're going. And this is why it would be really, really helpful, I think, to get this team sold. To what Declan said, I think people were pissed off. I'm sensing apathy now, which is the next thing, which is death.
It's bad.
Apathy, at least if they're mad, they're paying attention. I'm sensing apathy. And when you hit that, and we've seen that before, you can recover from people being mad because they still are passionate about you. But once they check out, it's like if you fall out of love, that ain't good. And that's where this is going.
Well, there's a macro baseball kind of problem and trend, just the way where baseball was positioned popularity wise in this country compared to, you know, I'm 39 years old. I grew up watching early 90s into like the steroid era, the summer of 1998.
Yeah.
And I do remember vaguely as like a 6-year-old the 1991 World Series, the last major championship by a men's team in this town. Baseball's in a different spot macro-wise than it was my generation, Dex's generation when we were kids. So you've got that force. But on the micro level, you can push back against some of that by just building a winning team and making aggressive moves and connecting with a fan base. And I just wonder, for a generation that grew up on a World Series, or Judd, you were like in kind of college age when they were winning in 87, 91. So they hooked you as more of an adult. They hooked me as a kid, the Kirby Puckett era. I experienced as a kid some of that excitement. And then even like in college, high school, college, I'm watching the Contraction Twins and Torrey Hunter and Minkiewicz, and that's where Dex grew up too, right? In the Target Field era, what have the Twins done to hook a new generation of fans?
They have hoped that their ballpark, which, as we've talked about for a long time, doubles as a great bar, gets fans in, gets young fans who are 21, perhaps, I hope, in. Like that's been their hook. Like the hook is come hang out, walk around, watch the game, don't watch the game. As far as the on the field product consistently, they have not. There's no question about it.
Yeah, I guess if you're ranking reasons to be hooked on Twins baseball for life in the Target Field era, the ballpark is number one.
Yes.
And it's a great ballpark. It is a great ballpark.
100% it's a great
but
ballpark.
It can't be the number one reason. Like it's not actually part of the team.
And when you look, they signed Carlos Correa, which shocked everyone, and that was definitely super exciting. And they have Royce Lewis, and they have Byron Buxton, and those three guys play in 60% of the games every year. Like that's also a problem. Like when you go out and sign Carlos Correa, that's badass. Like that was awesome. That's like one of the most fun things I've ever woken up to in my entire life was seeing that the Minnesota Twins signed Carlos Correa to a contract like that. But also the state of baseball, and state of sports fans not really caring about baseball, that's also kind of like limited the excitement level there too.
I got a question for both of you. So we are less than 2 years removed from the playoff series win against the Jays, which was awesome. Like that stadium was electric, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
And let's play this out last summer and say that the Twins don't go in the tank and make the playoffs. And let's say they lost in the first round, okay? And then, but the financial constraints are the same. What's the conversation right now? Because I feel like the collapse started this just bleep them. So if they had made the playoffs, lost in the first round, what's the tone of the Twins show right now as opposed to what we're doing right now?
Is it under the impression that the pull ads were still selling?
Sure.
Because that does matter, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Because if they were still selling, I still think we're still talking about the ownership as much as we are about anything.
Sure.
And we're probably, if they're not making the additions, we're still pissed off. But if the pull ads opted to not sell, I think we're not having an ownership conversation as much as we are.
I think it's very similar because a lot of it does come from if you're a fan, you're a Vikings fan, you feel like the Wilfs are one of you. You see them in the locker room in these videos. Kevin O'Connell is speaking to the team, and like Mark Wilf has a goofy look on his face, sitting there with his little quarter zip, and Ziggy's sitting there.
No, you're right.
And they just, fans don't feel that. I think ownership would be a huge conversation still. But I will say, like, regardless of how the season did or didn't finish, just looking ahead from a baseball perspective, this is not a bad, even with the lack of moves, this is not a bad roster. There's a lot of talent and upside here. There's a lot of ifs, too, because it's if health, if Lewis, if Buxton, Correa.
Right.
Brooks Lee needs to break out. They've got 3 really good position player prospects that if one or two of them can emerge in the second half of the season, a Luke Keyshaw, Emmanuel Rodriguez. I don't know that Walker Jenkins is a 2025 guy, but like, despite this wave of apathy, negativity, inaction, they might still, here's the thing, they're talented. If they can be healthy and start hot with a new fun ownership situation, you could, like, boom, you could spark something. You could spark something here. But, man, it's right now it is it's definitely as, like, dark and apathetic as it has felt in a long, long time with this team. Yeah,
they're still the betting favorite on FanDuel to win the Central. The Twins are. After Cleveland had a great great run in the ALCS. Hey, really quick before we get to Random Twins, some notes that I heard from Jeremy Zoll on Inside Twins, but a shout out to our friends at Kieran's Irish Pub, which is right next from Target Center, very close to Target Field as well. It's located in downtown Minneapolis on 1st Avenue and 6th Street. During Wolves games, they have victory celebrations. They have game day specials. It's a great spot to pony up there. We're about, we're about 3 months, I believe, from the home opener at Target Field. So whether you're going to a Wolves game or you're planning for a Twins game, go stop in at Kieran's Irish Pub. Some notes from Jeremy Zoll, who was on Inside Twins. I watched some of his appearance yesterday on the Twins social platforms. On Joe Ryan, who had the teres. I forget what the tricep injury he had that derailed his season. It sounds like he is a full go. He is in a good spot. He's been strengthening up his muscles and hitting a weight training program. He's hitting all of his steps. So barring any update by the time pitchers and catchers report, which is actually only about a month away, seems like Joe Ryan is a full go, which is a very integral part of that rotation. It feels like David Festa is the one that the organization is much higher on compared to his upside when you're talking about Simeon and Festa. And Zebby Matthews won't break the opening day rotation pending catastrophic injuries. Looking at those 3 young guys that had to make starts, and Festa's numbers definitely reflect it, it feels like they are really looking at Festa as the one that takes the bigger step forward to lengthening that rotation, lengthening his outings even. So Festa maybe on the back end there, probably slotting in as your 4th or 5th starter. To our point of the Twins still having a good roster, Pablo Lopez, Joe Ryan, Bailey Ober, that is as good as a 1-2-3 as you can have in today's baseball, and them rounding out with guys like Festa or Simeon. For the first time, even though like the Twins, we want them to make moves, like you feel pretty good on paper about their starting rotation. You'd like a veteran to lengthen it, but starting rotation-wise, they're still in a pretty good spot. They still look at Louis Varland as someone that they're going to stretch out as a starter. Maybe he eventually becomes a bullpen weapon for them, but that's got to be the case, man. Like, you got to make him a bullpen weapon.
It's so dumb. They've got, they've got enough. Now, Chris Paddock is listed as a starting pitcher still, too. I think he's probably not on the team. My guess is they dump his salary if they're trying to get below a certain threshold. But there's 2 dudes that they've been trying to make starters that are not starters, Chris Paddock and Louis Varland. So if one or both of those guys are on the team for me, and even if you take those guys out of the starting pitching mix, okay, Lopez, Ober, Ryan, Simeon Woods Richardson, David Festa, Zebby Matthews, that's 6 right there. You've got, and maybe there's another 1 or 2 that kind of come along here through the pipeline. But Chris Paddock has not been a viable starting pitcher since 2019. And Louis Varland, every time they've tried this, he has like a pitch and a half. So let him throw 98 miles an hour out of the bullpen and lengthen your bullpen.
Don't you remember with Paddock, all the team control, though?
He's still
all
under
that
team
control. It was like a lifetime of team control. It was so exciting.
And they bought out the team control and gave him an extension, which was also awesome.
Yeah,
Duran, Jax, Brock Stewart is never fully healthy, but when he's out there, he's effective. Cole Sands emerged. On the right-handed side of this bullpen, they've got strikeout dudes. They've got some horses here, but they only have one. I think they only have one left-handed pitcher on their 40-man. Is Funderburk the only left-handed pitcher on their 40-man?
Funderburk, and I forget if the guy they claimed from in the Rule 5 draft, if he's a lefty or not. I think he is.
Well, Brett Hendrick is also a left-handed pitcher who's on the 40-man roster.
Not really added a substantial southpaw
to
the bullpen as well.
And speaking of that, Griffin Jax will remain in the bullpen. Jeremy Zoll confirmed that there was talks, obviously, of him maybe going in the starting rotation. But the alignment of that bullpen starts with Jax. I think Mike Petrello had Griffin Jax in his top 5 relievers this season, or going into 2025. Only one other pitcher had a higher jump in strikeout percentage than Griffin Jax last year. And I agree, and Jeremy said the same thing. That bullpen alignment starts with Jax. Jax is your highest leverage and most consistent reliever, even with Duran, who throws 100 and gets more of the fanfare. But Jax is your best reliever. Everything starts with that. So Griffin Jackson starting rotation, not a thing in 2025.
Yeah, okay. So there's talent. Curious to see what the first base situation looks like. And Eddie Julian.
There's talent, but you can't then go to your fan base and say, but at first base, we're going to try Miranda and Julian. Like, that's the thing, is if you just brought in a legitimate first baseman, like, it wouldn't take, no one was telling you that you had to sign Soto. But if you would bring in a piece here and there that people might know, I think it would have helped a little bit. Because it's like, okay, you got this young talent that's worth surrounding with a decent veteran here or there, and that's where they're like, no, sorry, can't because of payroll.
And I actually disagree. I'm actually okay with them. I think Edward Julian should be their first baseman. Like, just like literally commit to it. You're not. If Brooks Lee, Carlos Correa, and Royce Lewis are in this infield, Julian's bat, if it bounces back, is one of their best. I think it's more about they haven't built up enough credibility and goodwill with decision-making that you just question it. Like, you question, do they have a plan? What are they doing? Are they just operating because are they just trying to right-size the business?
Right.
Is it a baseball decision to have Miranda and Julian at first base, or is it a right-size the business spreadsheet decision? And that's the doubt that they have built up over a number of years here.
And Julian will be an absolute butcher. That's my problem.
Yeah, I agree with Judd. And when Jeremy Zoll even used the term, we're still evaluating all opportunities and paths when it comes to their first base option, which to me tells me that Miranda Julian plan is not plan A, B, or C. They need to figure out something else before they stick those two as one of your opening day.
That is the Derek Falvey School of Media Training right there. We are exploring all paths and opportunities.
Cannot wait to be by our colleague Patrick Royce in the press box on opening day when Julian drops the first ball thrown to him.
Listen, it shouldn't. I know that he's been a butcher in the field. But if you've been a middle infielder throughout your life, you should athletically be able to transition with an off season of practice and working out to become a good defensive first baseman. It is like, it's one thing if you're just a lug and you're not athletic. Like, Edward Julian is an athletic enough dude. Yeah. You should be able to pick up first base. You should. So let's make it happen. Just like Royce Lewis, you're an athlete, dude. Like, you should be able, with an off season of working out, should be able to play 3 different infield positions, should be able to play on the other side of second base. So.
Judd, you have a random twin for us?
I do have a random twin for you.
All right,
let's go.
Been a while.
Fire up
it's been like a month on the random twin of the week. The all-time standings, I have 25 wins, Declan has 22, Judd has 19. The last handful of random twins are Gio Urshela. He's a happy fella. And the Yankees lead 6-4. Kyle Farmer, Jock Jones, Donnie Barrels, and Joe Mays. So Judd's going to throw out clues. Dex and I can shout out answers whenever we think we know. If one of us hits a third strike, the other one wins automatically. No Googling. Here we go.
We ready?
Yes.
Clue number 1. This former twin was drafted in the 52nd round.
Jesus. We got rid of those, right? Now Now it's only 30. I think baseball only goes 30 now.
It used to be endless.
Yeah.
Well, and then it was 50 for a while, which means this is kind of a clue in itself, I feel like. But it was either 50 or if they got to like the 46th round and everyone, like if teams just didn't want to pick anymore.
You started to draft like your dog or your kid.
Yeah. Or Albert Pujols, who I think wasn't he like a
Mike
Piazza?
Piazza? Piazza's the famous one, like 80th round pick or something back in the day. I think because he was Tommy Lasorda's godson. All right. Clue number 2. This player's minor league stops included Elizabethton, Kenosha, Visalia, Nashville, and Salt Lake.
Okay.
That's also a clue. That's beyond.
So this is a certain era.
This player spent 11 seasons as a Twin.
Wow.
11 seasons. So once he got here, he stuck. Staple of the community.
Oh.
Well, no.
Is that a clue?
No, I just was
well, to some extent.
Well, I mean, he must have been. I mean, he might have been a staple of the community. I don't know if he did a lot of going to children's hospitals and stuff. But anyway, his slash line was 252, 310, 351, 11 years, 25 home runs, 215 RBIs. Interestingly enough, he did have 17 triples in his 11 seasons.
Huh. Who is this SOB?
That is the question on Random Twin. In those 11 seasons, he had a .4 WAR. 0.4 was his WAR. Which actually is better than what his career WAR was. His career WAR was not as good as .4.
11 seasons.
How do you stay in the bit? Well, there's a certain era that values.
This former Twin played every position in his career except for pitcher and catcher. Just a versatile chap. They used to love versatility.
I almost had a guess.
Jeff Rabelais could move a guy around. You know who would love this guy is Rocco. He'd love to move. He'd be playing left field on Monday, third base on Tuesday.
So Visalia is crazy because I remember Scotty Ulger started his journey in Visalia.
He didn't.
Visalia, California.
Didn't spend 11 like big league seasons with the Twins.
Yes, 11 seasons. He's in Baseball Reference. He's credited with 11 seasons with the Twins.
I'm going to control F real quick here.
Okay. All right. Okay.
I'm searching for.
Tell me when you're done.
We've done this one.
Because I've got another clue coming right at you.
No, you can go ahead.
Fastballs are heavy, hot and heavy. He played over 100 games at second base, at third base, at shortstop, and in right field. So he played every position except for pitcher and catcher, but a good bulk of his time was spent at second, third, short, and right field.
We've done him too. There's like two that they're obvious guesses, but we've done.
Yeah.
I control F for this guy about 8 times because I was surprised we hadn't done him.
That's
but
a
I
clue.
couldn't find him. So this former Random Twin played in 4 playoff games, not series, 4 playoff games with the Twins and went 3 for 6.
Is this Denny Hawking?
Yep, there it is. Nice job.
Indeed, it is the man who was robbed in Moneyball. Robbed in Moneyball, the movie, because they had Corey Koski catch the pop-up when indeed it was Hawking. It was a day game, not a night game, and then Jock Jones stepped on his damn hand, broke his hand, and because of that, Hawking didn't play in the ALCS in 2002, and that's what cost the Twins against the Rally Monkey.
He was like the shadows of because it was kind of mid-'90s he made his debut, right? Like 96,
I'm shocked
maybe?
we hadn't done him. I was absolutely floored.
Or 93. When did he make his debut?
93, I think.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because he was part of the young wave after those bad teams, up and down.
Yep.
And then he became a fixture on some good teams.
Now a coach and manager of just sporadic teams, and he also was doing some Fox Sports Radio and MLB at one time, but I don't think he's been doing that for a long time.
Okay. Congratulations to the Dexter.
Thank you. By the way, our guy Doogie If you go follow him at DWolfson, KSTP is tweeting out all the ARB numbers. The arbitration deadline is today. As of this recording, Duran, Royce Lewis, Jeffers, Willie Castro, all done. They're all settled with their arbitration number for 2025.
Okay, so no, we're not going to court.
I thought I saw a report that Griffin Jax got done as well.
Griffin Jax is done. Yep, okay. Jax is done, so that's good.
Oh, all good Willie stuff. Castro done. 6.4.
Willie Castro 6.4.
That'll be a perfect
trade. Still trade him.
Yeah, I think they are going to trade him.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Hit the like button, subscribe button on the SKOR North Twins Show. We'll still be pumping out content weekly here going forward. Appreciate everyone listening, watching. We'll be back next week.
Baseball.